This bill is also support.
Good afternoon. In light of the controversy surrounding the California Public Utilities Commission, AB 825 will change the conditions that lead to some of the controversy. It opens up the Commission to greater transparency, and for the purposes of this committee, ensures that the Commission's actions can be scrutinized through independent oversight by both an Inspector General and by judicial review. In recent months, the legislature has fulfilled its responsibilities for oversight of the Commission after hearing allegations of various problems. Allegations as to problems at CPUC surfaced, and both houses held oversight hearings. The state auditor and the Department of Finance have reported on audits. Even the Attorney General is reportedly doing an investigation. But the legislature's ability to exercise detailed oversight is limited. We only have so much time to hold hearings. We're not set up to do detailed reviews of PUC decisions and the records that support them. We don't swear witnesses. We don't have the time or the resources to hear and consider arguments on both sides of the debate over PUC actions. We can't provide a day in court for those who would challenge the PUC. But that doesn't mean that there is no need for detailed, independent oversight of the PUC. There is a great need for oversight when the PUC has control over billions of dollars of ratepayer money. The current crisis and limitations on legislative oversight call for a big change in the way that state government oversees the PUC. We need the judiciary to play a more significant role in independent oversight. The current law that limits the ability of challengers to have their day in court does not work. Challengers can only request that an appellate court take a closer look, but the courts have no obligation to provide challengers with a day in court. The PUC can act with little possibility that a judge will ever review the record of their decisions. It can do a quick settlement of the public utility responsibility to pay the costs of closing San Onofre, for example, if it doesn't have to document that what utilities did at San Onofre was reasonable. It doesn't need to worry about what its record of the decision looks like because it's unlikely that the appellate courts will exercise their discretion to grant a review. The time has come to reverse course. AB 825 is that course reversal on judicial review of PUC actions. In order to reverse course, we have to stop doing what we've been doing for years, which is limiting the opportunities to seek judicial review of PUC decisions. Reversing course starts with what we've done here, which is deleting the framework for limiting judicial review. We will consider how parts of existing law may fit within a new paradigm of judicial review. When we sought to allow challengers to seek a review of the record for a PUC decision by the Superior Court, lawyers identified conflicts with existing law, which have never allowed Superior Courts a role in judicial review, so we deleted those provisions. Your committee analysis identifies general concerns. Those are concerns that we will need to address in the months ahead. Is this bill done? No, but that's the legislative process. I plan to work with all stakeholders, including your committee staff, to work through the many issues that inevitably arise when you reverse course. I remain committed to working through all of these issues with lawyers and stakeholders in an open and transparent process. We have engaged stakeholders on a large email list so they know what kind of proposals we have been receiving, and we encourage open discussion of those proposals. That's where we start and how we will proceed to consider all the issues that they identify. Let me take a moment to discuss one critical issue that I have heard from judges, especially those in San Francisco, which is where the bill focuses judicial review of the PUC. It focuses in San Francisco and Los Angeles. The question is, how are we going to pay for this judicial review? Their resources are stretched to the limit, which we acknowledged. Our courts have suffered big cuts in recent years, which concerns me deeply. I believe that we have a responsibility to ensure that all Californians have access to justice. That's a real issue in my own district where there are actually no courtrooms in my district. People have to go to a city and an adjoining district and line up at 4:30 in the morning. Our people suffer delays in having their civil cases heard, even in family court. I respect what the LA County Superior Court has done to promote justice within its limited resources, as well as those in San Francisco and other places throughout the state. I think we need to commit more funding to courts because there is a fundamental duty of government to ensure access to justice. That access to justice includes justice for California's public utility ratepayers. To pay for judicial review of PUC decisions, we have at least one option: drawing on funding from the PUC. The Commission spends hundreds of millions of dollars of ratepayer funds to pay for its own operations and for a range of the Commission's pet projects, such as nonprofits, which may be doing good things, but this PUC, not the legislature, decides how to spend ratepayer money. But we can direct the PUC to pay for the costs of the justice system to review its decisions in the same way that the Department of Corrections pays the justice system's costs for prosecuting crimes committed in prison. And it may offer a model for us here with respect to the PUC. AB 825 already commits PUC funding to pay for the cost of transparency and the cost of independent inspector general to audit PUC activities. We can tap the PUC for funding to pay for ratepayer access to justice. That's one option for paying for this access to justice. I'm committed to finding other ways for this judicial review. In order to accomplish big change like this Superior Court review of PUC decisions, we have to take the first step. AB 825 is that first step. In its current form, it's just the start of this legislative process, but we have to start somewhere. We're here to ensure access to justice. Let's make sure that all Californians get to have their day in court, even when they challenge the PUC. I invite all of you to work with me to make sure that judicial review of PUC decisions works for all Californians.
Thank you. Your witnesses, please.
Good afternoon. Mike Monaghan on behalf of the Coalition of California Utility Employees. I'd like to thank Mr. Rendon for his leadership on increasing transparency at the Commission, both with this bill and as chair of the Utilities and Commerce Committee. The benefits to this transparency are immense. We ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chair and members, Barry Broad on behalf of the Utility Workers Union of America and the Engineers and Scientists of California, which are both labor unions that represent employees at companies under the jurisdiction of the Public Utilities Commission. Obviously, we need to strike the appropriate balance, giving people creating a situation where there is more oversight to the PUC, which has an amazing and incredible impact on the economy in a variety of industries, and ensuring that its rules are followed and matters are dealt with expeditiously. So we strongly support this bill, and we think it's moving in the right direction, and that we can get to a situation where perhaps some of the things that have happened in the last few years at the PUC that are, I think, the accumulation of a period in which there's been less oversight than there should have been, can be sort of turned around. So we urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please.
Mr. Chair and members, Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the Utility Reform Network, or TURN. We have a support if amended position. I want to thank the author and the author's office for reaching out to us and making the commitment that we will be part of the stakeholder process going forward. The concept of having additional accountability and review of CBUC actions, we're very open to. What we want to ensure is that any Superior Court review or court review have ample opportunity for ratepayers, especially low-income ratepayers, are the ones that we try to represent and put forth their viewpoints are going to be represented there during Superior Court review. And we want to be very careful as to which issues are going to be reviewed. We want to look into, is it going to be de novo, or is it, what exactly is the process going to look like? So we look forward to being part of the process and figuring out the evolution of this bill, and we want to make sure that it strikes a very significant balance so that low-income ratepayers will have a voice if and when there is a change in the law.
Thank you. Next witness, please. In support? Nope. All right. Anyone else in support? Opposition then.
Chair and members, Dan Pone for the Judicial Council. In light of the late-breaking nature of the judicial review amendments, we have not had time to take a formal position, but we do have very serious concerns that we would like to relay to you today. And I want to make clear that our comments are limited to just the judicial review provisions in the bill. All of the other provisions in the bill are completely outside our purview. As many of you know, the existing judicial review scheme that was enacted in 1998 was the result of a very deliberative stakeholder process that involved all key interest groups. That law has been in effect for 17 years, and although there have been a variety of different legislative proposals over the years that would make some changes to the review and the Court of Appeal approach, this is the first time that there's been any consideration of setting aside that entire judicial review scheme and replacing it with Superior Court review. Superior Courts have never had any experience in reviewing PUC decisions. Prior to the 1998 legislation, it was limited review in the Supreme Court under a very deferential standard. So the Superior Courts have never heard these cases in any shape or form. As has already been alluded to, the judicial branch has suffered really devastating cuts over this last number of years. The Superior Courts in particular are faced with, I believe it's 52 courthouses and over 200 courtrooms that have closed. The staffing layoffs have been really significant and are having a dramatic impact. And so while in perhaps an ideal world of a fully funded court system and fully staffed court system, it might make some sense to consider the possibility of a really radical shift to having the Superior Courts do these. It simply just does not seem to us to be at any kind of practical level to suggest that the Superior Courts would be somehow in a better position of delivering better review and more expeditious and thorough review than the existing Court of Appeal system that has been doing it for 17 years with 3 justices and with their significant staff attorney support that is completely lacking in this case. Also, as was alluded to, the current bill has exclusive venue in both LA and the San Francisco Superior Court. So not only do we have significant concerns about the Superior Court's ability in general to be able to take on the significant new workload. These are very complex cases. They have very voluminous records. They're like a very complex CEQA kind of case. They're very burdensome, time-consuming cases. To put all of those cases in the LA and Superior Courts with all of the challenges that they have faced will create an undue burden on those particular courts to have to assume all of the caseloads rather than some spreading out across the board. So in light of all of those challenges, we have just major concerns about the Superior Court's ability to carry them out. Finally, as the analysis indicates and the author has alluded to, there are many procedural details, even if it's decided ultimately that they should be heard in the Superior Court, that would need to be worked out that are simply lacking in the bill. A whole detailed series of statutes that deal with scope of review, appellate review, and so forth that would need to be addressed.
Thank you. Thank you. Next witness, briefly,
Evan
please.
Evan Jacobs here on behalf of California Water Association, representing 113 investor and water utilities. We think many sections of this bill are very good and are improvements in the current process, things dealing with the internal auditing, access and transparency for consumers. We think those are all very positive. Our chief concern right now is the portion on judicial review, and I'm heartened to hear that there will be a stakeholder process and we can get involved with that. Specifically for my member companies, the big issue is that we have 113 water utilities. Many of them have very small service districts. That low level of judicial review could really expand our costs and create a lot of new costs for us as we seek to defend PUC decisions that have already gone through 1.5 to 2 years of processing. With a small customer base, amortizing those costs could quickly become very expensive and have negative impacts on our customers. So we're very concerned about that. I'd like to work with you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opposition? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the committee. Questions, comments? Mr. Chu?
Quick comment. First of all, I want to thank the author for moving this bill and absolutely support the intent of additional PUC transparency here. As I had mentioned to the author, I had did have some initial concerns about the possibility of changing the judicial review to involve the Superior Courts of San Francisco and Los Angeles. I had a meeting last week with the leadership of the San Francisco courts. I think while they might be open to it at this point, given the 30% budget cuts, they certainly aren't staffed from a funding standpoint, nor have the expertise to do this. But given your publicly stated commitment to working to find funding, and I know your appreciation of this, I'm happy to support this moving out and trust that if this were to move forward, we will be able to figure out a way to fund it appropriately so we can make sure that that these cases are dealt with in the way that they need to be.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that to our attention and for engaging in the dialogue.
Thanks. Mr. Gallagher.
Yeah, just kind of along those lines is obviously there's been a burden on the courts. To add to that without funding is an issue. But since it sounds like that's already being worked through, and that's something that we're going to try to identify funding to help support that review. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge issue in my district. I know it's a huge issue throughout the state. Like I said earlier, the department, if someone commits a crime in prison, the Department of Correction pays those court costs. So looking at those types of models and others are what we're interested in doing. We don't want this to be a financial burden on the trial courts at all. So we're going to look into that for sure.
Okay.
And look forward to working with you in addressing that.
Thank you. Any other comments from committee members? We do have a motion and a second. I would also like to remain a part of the conversation, and if you would add me as a co-author, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rendon. All right. With that, we do have a motion and a second. The recommended motion is due pass to appropriations. Mr. Rendon, you may close.
I respectfully ask for your aye vote and encourage all the members of this committee to continue to engage in the discussion. It's been quite fruitful and will lead to a better product ultimately.
Great. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wagner? Wagner, aye. Alejo? Alejo, aye. Chow? Chow, aye. Chu? Chu, aye. Gallagher? Gallagher, aye. Garcia? Garcia, aye. Holden? Holden, aye. Mainshine? O'Donnell?
That bill is out.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Ms. Waldron. Item number 3, AB 59.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you saving the best for last or almost last?
Almost last. So, no, we're not saving the best for last.
Okay.
The penultimate, though.
Okay, thank you. AB 59 is a standalone bill which streamlines the process for a county who chooses to participate in assisted outpatient treatment known as Laura's Law or AOT. I also commit to taking the amendments in the next committee that would leave the original sunset date alone, which was a concern in the committee analysis. Assisted outpatient treatment increases treatment adherence, such as medication, and is proven to keep those individuals out of our crowded emergency rooms. Currently, the process for counties to implement Laura's Law is cumbersome and lengthy. This bill makes the implementation process easier for counties by streamlining the amount of data needed. County budgets are complicated. For this reason, AB 59 seeks to maintain county control by still allowing counties to decide for themselves if they want to offer this service. For counties that do believe this is a necessary treatment tool for their constituency, AB 59 makes it easier for county boards of supervisors to opt in. In addition, last year's SB 585 by then Pro Tem Steinberg clarified that Prop 63 monies could be used for AOT. This opened up more funding options, which resulted in more counties signing up. Currently, Laura's Law has been implemented in Nevada, Contra Costa, Orange, Mendocino, Placer, San Francisco, and Yolo County, with San Diego recently passing a resolution to implement Laura's Law. I was first introduced to this concept when I was newly elected in 2012. I sat on a joint public safety hearing, Senate and Assembly, regarding the Newtown shootings. And because, as a mom, and how devastating that is, we talked about prohibited armed persons, how many people were out there who were on a list and we couldn't get to. We talked about all kinds of issues, including getting treatments for the people who needed them for mental illness and weren't getting them, parents who were locking themselves in their bedroom because they feared for their child and had made numerous attempts to get help for them and couldn't. When that happened in the Newtown shooting, I think the whole committee realized in a bipartisan way that this issue needed to be dealt with in a number of different ways, and that's why Pro Tem Steinberg at the time did the bill to clarify that the Prop 63 monies could be used. So then there wasn't so much competition for the same little pot of money. It actually opened that up to allow counties to opt in. So AB 59 is a bipartisan bill co-authored by Assemblywoman Kristen Olson, Senator Bob Huff, and Senator Isidore Hall. AB 59 also recently passed Health Committee with a 16-0 bipartisan vote. With the support from the California Medical Association, NAMI Contra Costa County, Mental Health Community Coalition Contra Costa, San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, California Treatment Advocacy Coalition, and the California chapter of American College of Emergency Physicians, I would urge your support for this bill. And I would like to introduce Douglas Dunn, representing a parent representative of NAMI Contra Costa. Thank you.
On behalf of NAMI Contra Costa and the Contra Costa Mental Health Community Coalition, representing 2,500 families, I thank every one of you for the opportunity to publicly testify on behalf of amended AB 59. As certified and experienced NAMI family-to-family teachers, my wife Linda and I are the parents of a very mentally ill loved one. Like multiplied thousands of families and friends throughout California, we have repeatedly experienced the following 9 times in the past 8 years, 5 in the past 2 years alone. Terrifying phone calls to the police, followed by revolving door hospitalizations, crisis stabilizations, and a broken conservatorship. Like untold thousands in this endless washing machine cycle, we have helplessly watched our loved one deteriorate because of 3 things. 1, he truly does not recognize he is gravely mentally ill. 2, each of his 9 psychotic breaks has further damaged his brain and made real recovery much harder. And 3, in each of these psychotic breaks, his desire for suicide and or attempted violence toward us and others has increased up to 7 times higher than that of the general population. Despite what the opposition may say, these experiences are buttressed by many worldwide scientific studies of more than 250,000 persons over the past 5 to 15 years. Different from AB 1193, AB 59, as most recently amended, would eliminate the requirement that counties make a finding that no existing voluntary mental health programs will be reduced to fund assisted outpatient treatment. This item would really stream the process for the other 51 counties who have not yet adopted Laura's Law to opt in. Why? Very briefly, every state or county who has properly implemented assisted outpatient treatment has found 2 things. 1, it saves money and improves lives, making real recovery possible. And 2, frees up much additional funding for scarce voluntary services. It's the guardrail at the top of the cliff instead of the expensive ambulance at the bottom after the fall. As it relates to Contra Costa County, it should allow our county to save nearly $2 annually for every $1 currently spent on revolving door crisis care cost. And these savings should free up anywhere from $5 to $10 million a year in badly needed funding for voluntary behavioral health services. Finally, Contra Costa County is adopting its version of San Francisco's Laura's Law model. This approach does 2 things. It gives the referred person multiple chances to agree to voluntary services, and 2, eliminates the up to 3-day pre-5150 hold process. In summary, it makes applying Laura's Law as humane and compassionate as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please. All right. Other witnesses in support? Seeing none, witnesses in opposition. You can come to the table if you like.
I'll be short. I'm actually a neutral. In between, I'm Farrah McDade Ting from the California State Association of Counties. We appreciate the author's office working with us on some of our concerns about the bill as introduced. We appreciate the proposed amendments. We are currently neutral, as well as the California Behavioral Health Directors Association. We will continue to work with the author's office to make sure that this bill works for all counties. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sally Zimmerman. I'm with the California Association of Mental Health Peer-run Organizations, and we are opposed to this bill. I'm not absolutely clear about the amendments and the changes that have been made. We oppose it because it strengthens the law that we don't think is effective and is a violation of rights. Every study that I've ever seen that was a truly comparative study indicated that it was the services, the services that made the difference, not the court order, and yet this takes rights away. We think voluntary services are the answer, comprehensive services that meet people where they're at, which is described literally in the Mental Health Services Act. We're very concerned, and I wasn't clear and I couldn't catch what the amendments or changes are, that this would delete the part of involuntary outpatient treatment bill that stipulates that counties have to, the Board of Supervisors have to make a finding that voluntary services are not reduced, as well as children's services. We think that would be hugely problematic. It could, in the worst case scenario, change and transform our whole system from being a voluntary-based system to being an involuntary default system. And it's voluntary is really where it's at. In fact, in one of the analyses of the bill, there was a discussion why AB 1421 has not been implemented in the state in the last 14 years, except recently. And most of the states around the country, although 40-some states have involuntary outpatient treatment acts and laws, very few have implemented it. And my feeling is because providers really don't like it, because it undermines the whole therapeutic relationship, turns it into one of force and control. So we do oppose this. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next witness, please.
Evelyn Abu Hassan with Disability Rights California, echoing much of the comments of Ms. Zinman. Again, we're opposed to this bill similarly because it does not require the Board of Supervisors to make a finding that voluntary services, which are known to be more effective, have not been reduced. Also, the bill, again, like the bill before it, 1193, expands who can file these AOT petitions. Broadening that group of people who don't have an understanding of the individual involved that's subject to the petition is problematic. So for those reasons, we oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness, please. And if you could just state your name, your affiliation, and that you're opposed.
Good afternoon, members of the ASM Judiciary Committee. My name is Matt Gallagher. I'm a youth advocate for Mental Health America of California, also in opposition. I ask for your no vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie Ramos, Mental Health America of Northern California, sibling of a young person with severe mental illness, and I oppose this. Thank you.
Apologies to the committee. Stuart Thomas, I'm actually in support on behalf of the California Medical Association. I'm sorry I was stuck in another committee, but we're in strong support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the committee. And for clarification, there are no amendments being offered or asked at this point in this committee. And if it does survive the committee, then you certainly could take amendments at the next level. And I'm recommending a no out of respect for the author, though. I appreciate that you brought this and then the work that you're doing and interested in this with the bill that we just saw and having this bill, which are potentially going in different directions. I'm not comfortable wanting to see both bills move out of the committee. I think a lot of the issues that you're raising can be addressed in Ms. Eggman's bill as it moves forward, and that's why I'm recommending a no on this bill. So, Mr. Wagner.
Well, thank you. You touched on something I wanted to bring up. We did just consider the Eggman bill, and I'm not sure if it's necessarily going in if the two of you are necessarily going in different directions. she's got a bill that I think goes off to approach. It's got a rather large cost to it, and I am seeing, in the event that one passes, an opportunity to, maybe yours gets chaptered out. I don't know, but it's not inconsistent to move them both along as we search for a way to give counties an opportunity to get a handle on this class of its citizens. At least that's kind of how I reconcile the two bills. My question to you is, am I missing anything? Are there other differences? Is there something else to be said to allay the chairman's concerns about the two bills and moving them both forward out of this committee?
Thank you. With the amendments that were taken for AB 1193, that now would require the counties to hold a hearing, either up or down, or they're going to do it or they're not. It actually makes this bill complementary even more so with hers, because now with the hearing process, it will streamline that process for the counties who will now be mandated to hold a hearing prior to a certain date. So this bill, AB 59, now is far more complementary to how it was prior to those amendments being taken. The fact that we're doing a streamlining, putting it in the hands of the county as the law currently holds, that it's up to the county to make the decision. They're going to make the decision looking at a budget. You have to do that, because that's what we did as local elected officials. We were accountable for our budget. So they're not just going to spend money they don't have. And the reason that this bill is timely now, when Law's Law was first implemented, money was tighter, but with the Steinberg bill clarifying that Prop 63 monies now can go for AOT, it actually widens the available funding for this treatment. So that's why counties are more interested in it. They don't really need to have that finding anymore that was in place because the funding was so restricted. So we're just trying to make it easier for counties to do it if they want to. If they don't, under Ms. Eggman's bill, they'll hold the hearing and vote no. So really, they are complementary. Ours, as far as costs, is not mandating anything, so it would be more streamlined, and that's why I say it's a standalone. So no matter what happens with AB 1193 as it goes forward, this bill could still go on its own, or, in appropes, it could be dealt with there. So I think, that's really, we want to be able to get to that level so that all of those can be put on the table. And, I'm very willing to work with Ms. Eggman as well. So.
Okay. Well, addressing this bill on its own merits, I'm happy to move the bill.
So there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. And that motion would be due pass to appropriations. Any other comments from committee members?
Just thought that, I think both bills, especially as amended, are complementary to each other, and they're not opposed, and I think can continue to be worked out. This is an important tool that's available and that we want counties to be looking at as a possible tool to deal with situations. So, I think if we're moving forward with the Eggman bill, I don't think there's any issue with also moving forward with Ms. Waldron's bill.
Thank you. And one of the differences I will point out that to me is significant, and that in Ms. Eggman's bill, it does require a review with respect to the voluntary services, and this one does not. Further comments? Ms. Waldron, you may close.
Well, I do urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Stone?
No.
Stone, no. Wagner?
Aye.
Wagner, aye. Alejo? Chow? Chu? Gallagher? Aye. Gallagher, aye. Garcia? No. Garcia, no. Holden? Mainshine? Aye. Mainshine, aye. O'Donnell?
You have 3 votes, so we'll leave your bill on call. Thank you. And Mr. Gatto, item 11, AB 1116.